Current MAGA Republicans aren't to blame for the Kerrville flash floods. Hola, primas, primos. Bienvenidos a Nuevo Mundo. It's for educational purposes only. No, the Texas legislature has been fucking shit up with the Republicans leading the way for many years. So I started looking at some of the stuff that was being posted and went online, and I realized that this latest catastrophe revealed a systemic failure across multiple levels of government, state and federal, even though everybody knew that this was called Flash Flood Alley. As an anarchist, I think most government agencies are fucking unnecessary. I just have to put that out there because I have to give you that idea that, I'm skeptical of a lot of the things that I read. Now, I live in West Texas, and these weather alerts are always on the phone, especially during this type of weather or tornado weather. You do get these alerts all the time. Now, according to the Texas Tribune and Al Jazeera, the National Weather Service issued a flood watch 15 hours before the event, around 1:18 p.m. on July 3rd. And then they issued multiple escalating warnings with a flash flood warning at 1:14 a.m. and a flash flood emergency at 4:03 a.m. on July 4th. Now, staffing at the relevant offices in New Braunfels and San Antonio was above normal during the event. These warnings automatically triggered wireless alerts, but Kerr County lacked integrated sirens, standardized emergency plans for camps and RV parks, and direct communication protocols with the NWS. Some calls to officials went to voicemail. This is at least according to CNN and The Guardian. Now, whether Camp Mystic was one of those Christian Zionist camps or not, they did have a no screens policy, which prevented the counselors from receiving mobile alerts. They also lacked walkie-talkies and evacuation training, so this forced heroic improvisation during the crisis. According to CNN and NPR, the county applied for federal flood warning system grants in 2016 and 17, but they were rejected due to technicalities, something to do with expired hazard mitigation plans, exclusion from the Harvey disaster zones. The state flood funds required 95% local match, which at the time was prohibitively expensive. And according to The Guardian and the Texas Tribune, officials claimed ignorance of the threat, with Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly stating, "We didn't know this flood was coming." Jesus, idiot. Kerrville city manager was jogging near the river at 3:30 a.m. but observed no flooding, and this helped delay evacuations. The county Facebook alerts weren't posted until about 5:30 a.m. after the river had already breached its banks. Hate to tell you told you so, but this is what happens when you elect maggots and sycophants, Trumpists. Anyway, the FEMA floodplain regulations were skirted for riverside developments. This increased the exposure. It was reported that the Trump administration canceled the $4.6 billion Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program and froze flood mitigation assistance funds. These are key pre-disaster funding sources. Texas State Flood Fund allocated only $669 million against a documented $54.5 billion in needed projects. Despite adequate staffing during this event, the San Angelo NWS office, which covers Kerr County, had long-term vacancies, including a senior hydrologist. This thanks to the recent DOGE cuts, which eliminated 600 NWS positions nationally. Texas officials live in this weird la-la land where they dismiss links between funding cuts and outcomes. Senator Lambehuevos Mascarriata Cruz called such critiques shameless partisan hacks, and Hot Wheels Abbott deferred solutions to a future legislative session. A resident named Valerie Peters acknowledged receiving warnings, but dismissed them due to frequent false alarms, a known issue in flood-prone areas. I would also say she probably took hydrochloroquine during COVID. The Guadalupe River rose 14.3 feet in 3 hours, exceeding all historical records. Hill Country's limestone geology accelerates runoff, but rainfall intensity aligns with climate-driven trends. Oh, thank you, climate change. Multiple residents reported receiving no warning, relying on luck, such as tree climbing, for survival. The National Weather Service delivered accurate, timely warnings. It was state officials in Texas who had systemic failures in funding, communication, and emergency protocols and turned a forecasted disaster into a massed casualty event. Let me say it a little louder for you in the cheap seats. Texas state officials killed those kids. One more time. It's those Republicans who believe that every child's life is sacred. Now, according to ABC News and Yahoo, in 1978, Tropical Storm Amelia dropped 48 inches of rain in Medina, next to Kerr County, from July 30th to August 5th. 33 fatalities occurred with $110 million in damages across Texas. The floodwaters struck early morning. Again, no warnings or evacuations. And the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, noting this timing, caused critical failures in data collection, warning dissemination, and community reaction. Now, the context is that it highlighted the deadly combination of tropical moisture in the region's terrain, where hills funneled rainwater into narrow river channels. Now, the question is, did the Texas officials learn from that? No, because again, in 1987, it happened again. The Guadalupe River flash flood. It was a slow-moving thunderstorm that dumped 5 to 10 inches of rain in the upper Guadalupe River basin overnight on July 16 and 17. 10 teenagers got killed at the Pot of Gold Christian camp, again, Christian Zionist, near Comfort, Texas, when a wall of water swept through during an evacuation. Jesus and God really want those kids. A bus carrying 43 campers was crushed against trees. Survivors again, like monkeys, clung to branches until they were rescued. Similar to the 2025 disaster Camp Mystic near Hunt, they narrowly avoided catastrophe due to informal upstream warnings. Despite the upstream camps calling alerts, no formal siren system existed. The tragedy underscored the need for coordinated emergency protocols for riverside camps, including a siren. The Texas Observer reported about the 2002 Independence Day floods. Came after a prolonged drought ended with record-breaking rains, up to 35 inches in part of the hill country, from June 30th to July 6th. Again, 12 deaths and 48,000 homes were damaged. Personal accounts describe homes submerged to the rooftops. A family was trapped in an attic as water rose 8 feet overnight. Wallace Creek swelled from 102 feet wide to 200 yards wide. 2 football fields for you Texans, swallowing entire properties. The key failures? Inadequate warnings. Residents received no evacuation orders. Emergencies, mostly were volunteers, were stranded miles away. Floodplain mismanagement, because many homes, including the narrator's family home, were not classified in FEMA flood zones, leaving residents unaware of the risks. Not this narrator, but the one that told the story. So what's the story, Morning Glory? According to Yahoo and ABC, among others, let's take the geography and the climate. It's thin soil, limestone bedrock, and they funnel. In other words, the topography accelerates runoff every time. Warning systems, no sirens. Up until today, they don't have a functional alert system despite prior requests for state funding. I've lived in the same town for 60 years and we have 2 sirens. Camps repeatedly flooded, 87, 2002, and now 2025. Remember, 1978 too. This is due to riverside locations and inconsistent evacuation plans. They have this drought flood cycle. All 3 of the floods followed severe droughts which had hardened the soil and worsened runoff. It almost seems like Republicans want to kill people. Each disaster led to temporary calls for better infrastructure, including a proposal for a warning siren. But the funding and the political will faded. Thank you, Republicans. Kerr County's grant application for flood warning systems were rejected in 2016 and 2017. The July 2025 Camp Mystic tragedy repeated nearly identical failures, delayed evacuations, no sirens, and officials claiming they didn't know the flood was coming despite the advanced NWS warnings. Thank you for coming to my dad talk.